Truth is, I am Iron Man.
I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
What is going on? What are you doing?
To infinity and beyond!
This is the way.
The flux capacitor.
Is Star Wars the one with the little wizard boy?
Chewie, we're home.
Avengers!
Assemble.
Ah, chills. Literal chills.
Hello, fellow fans, to United We Fan, the podcast. United with me is my co-host, the personable Bryan. What up, Bryan?
Hey, everyone.
We hope our fellow fans enjoyed last week's episode where we went to the stars to talk about the Guardians of the frickin' Galaxy. On this week's episode is the one where Mark and Bryan talk about the hit show, Friends. We'll be discussing our favorite and least favorite seasons and episodes, as well as ranking the main characters and other fun topics. Joining us this week will be our second guest host on the show. Please welcome the definition of a Hufflepuff, Frankie.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me. And hey, Bryan.
Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it and all the Friends wisdom and banter you can help provide us with this week. But first, before we visit our friends, thank you all for uniting with us as we talk about all things fandom. United We Fan has partnered up with CKCC Radio. Our first guest host was our friend Chris over there. He was on our Disney Parks episode. Check out the variety of shows they have on their channel. You can check all of us out wherever you listen to your podcasts. In Mark and Bryan's world news, I recently celebrated a birthday. Not going to say what birthday it was. If you want to see the toll it took on me, check out that Friends episode where they're turning 30 and they're all revisiting how they're struggling with it.
Why, God, why? We had a deal. Let the others grow old, not me.
I'll just go with that. On Netflix, I checked out the film with Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, the superhero flick called Project Power. I was very surprised the creator of that movie tried to get Marvel and DC to buy it for a comic book series, and they weren't having it, so he went to Netflix. And very highly entertaining movie. And then I also checked out on Netflix the Down to Earth with Zac Efron series. Very educational, very informative. Highly recommend both if you have Netflix.
He's a very handsome guy.
I know the dad bod Efron is trending. Frankie, can you give us any personal feedback on that?
I'm enjoying the dad bod. You know, I've enjoyed Zac Efron, dad bod, Baywatch bod, any bod. I'm all for it.
So just any Efron, you'll take it.
Any Efron after High School Musical.
Oh, you liked the dark hair Efron?
Oh yeah. The blonde hair, I don't know, the blonde hair, not a fan, but I definitely enjoy the darker hair.
Well, all right then. One of my favorite podcasts, Blockbuster, finished season 2. I got Bryan hooked on it. The first season is about Spielberg and George Lucas making Jaws and Star Wars. And then the second season was about James Cameron and his career from college dropout to making a little film called Titanic. I just love it because it's kind of like a old school radio production. You'll forget you're listening to a show and think you're listening to a movie. Just all out top production.
Yeah, I'm about halfway through season 2. I haven't had a chance to finish it yet, so I've still got a lot of James Cameron's career to go. But it's really interesting. I'm actually enjoying season 2 better than I did season 1. Don't tell George Lucas.
I think they definitely stepped up their game with season 2. I like the storyline for season 1 more, but season 2, the production went up.
Yeah, the production value is a lot higher in season 2.
I feel like it's like a movie where they were like, it's the sequel. Up the production by 100 million. Go! And let's see, Mark and Bryan go to the polls. I don't have a recent poll, but Bryan, your Mount Rushmore was most iconic TV themes, and we're talking about Friends. So let's see if the Friends I'll Be There For You made Bryan's Mount Rushmore. Let's hear it, Bryan.
Spoiler alert, it did not. It's an iconic song. There's no question about that. I mean, the Friends one probably belongs. I'll save my fourth one that was kind of the surprise of the group for last. And it was probably there just to start a conversation more than anything. But my first one is The Office, whenever that song comes on, that song will automatically transport me to another area. Round Ball Rock, the theme from NBA on NBC. If you know that song, it's written by John Tesh, who also did the Entertainment Tonight music.
Oh,
So
wow.
that song is amazing, and there's a really funny Saturday Night Live sketch about Round Ball Rock featuring Jason Sudeikis and Vince Vaughn, if you want to check that out. Third for me is definitely the opening for Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. There's no more iconic song out there for me. I love the Fresh Prince. And then fourth is going to be California by Phantom Planet, which was the theme song for The OC.
If I had something to drop, I would have dropped it. Seeing your California by Phantom Planet for the OC.
Just your jaw.
I know. See, the OC is definitely a guilty pleasure of mine, so I was happy to see that. And the show maybe is okay, not maybe. It's definitely dated, but when that song comes on, you definitely get transported to California.
Like I said, the rules of this Mount Rushmore for me were to what do you hear, and it transports you to another part of your life, and that takes me right back to junior year of high school.
Well, we're not going to play that game, but
Yeah, please don't. Please don't play that game.
Frankie, you got a Mount Rushmore of iconic TV themes?
Sure. Mine, kind of stem a little bit different. They're kind of from every different area, but definitely songs that bring happiness and joy to me for different reasons. My number 4 is it's the theme song to One Day at a Time, but it is the current version or the revamped version that was done for. It was done for the Netflix show, which eventually went to pop. It's got the Latin rhythm, of course, being of Latin descent. It's I'm sort of attached to it. It's done by Gloria Estefan, who is iconic, and the queen bee herself, Miss Miami. So I got to enjoy that. And yeah, just a theme song that you can shake your hips to. So I kind of enjoyed that. My number 3, I did include Friends. Not only because it kind of goes with what we are talking about today, but growing up, I remember how huge the song was and how it was on the radio 24/7, and still to this day, it plays the song, you have to do the clapping part. Number 2, I actually, while you guys were talking, I changed it to a different one because not many people know it, but it's the theme song to the soap opera Passions. I don't know if anyone remembers that.
Oh, Frankie.
Well, I mean, you were talking about it transporting you. Bryan was talking about transporting you, and I remember. So that actually takes me back to college, and again, showing what we didn't want to talk about. But my college roommate introduced it to me, and I mean, the song is. I think it's because it's so cheesy. I mean, it's all over YouTube. It's definitely you can hear it, but it's the woman who sings. It's got this very kind of high voice, and this is like, to me, that's how it sounds like. And I used to just have fun just randomly singing and jamming out to it with friends of mine, and we would sort of do choreography to it. And then my number 1, and the only reason it's my one is it was the first song I thought about when you asked me about it, was the theme song to Facts of Life.
You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. The facts of life.
You know what? Knowing you, I was kind of wondering if Facts of Life was going to be on there.
It literally, when you told me, I was like, the very first song, the very first song that popped in my mind, and the lyrics started coming in. You take the good, you take the bad, like that whole thing. And this, the song goes from like this really sort of little 70s ditty into this this pop rock 80s version with everybody's big hair and everything. So yeah. So Facts of Life is my number 1.
Oh, good choices. I definitely like going last because you all said a couple of what I would have said, but since you already mentioned them, I can now put 2 others in the spots. The Office is definitely good. I love The Office because it's one of those ones where you'll sing with it. It doesn't have words, so that's a good one. Bryan, you had me right away with Fresh Prince, and then Frankie, I agree with everything you said about the Friends theme. So as I thought about it, and I loved what Bryan said, like a theme that transports you. Smallville, for me, that show like really
Yeah.
hits close to home. So when
Mhm.
that Somebody Save Me comes on, I'm like immediately in Smallville right away. And then the Adam West Batman 60s theme. Na na
Okay,
na na
that's
na
a good
na
one.
Batman. I you just get locked in that spinning rotating bat signal. And then I know I'm going to be judged for this and I don't care. Dawson's Creek. Like
Oh,
The
I don't
judgment is hard,
I
man.
don't want to win.
I know.
But
I don't want to win.
But see, when I sing the song, I do it in the Cartman voice.
Oh
Because
dear.
there's an episode where he just kept singing it, and that stuck with me, and I just do it all the time. It's Cartman.
I don't wanna wait for our love to be over.
And I was trying to think about for my last one what I want, like the 90s Spider-Man is a great choice. Price is Right. I think anyone who ever thinks Price is Right is like, man, I remember those days being sick in bed listening to Price is Right.
Yes.
Cheers is a great theme as well.
Mhm.
But I think what got me is going to go last on my list is and you guys will know as soon as I start singing it. Thank you for being a
Being a friend.
friend. Do do
I was
do.
thinking of that.
Traveling down the road to back again.
Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant.
So the Golden Girls, you know what? I'll give
Yeah.
those ladies a shout out. And I know
Shout-
now it's more of a GIF. I think GIFs of the Golden
GIF?
Girls made that theme more popular.
Yeah.
Oh, don't say GIF. GIF. It made that one more popular. So I'll go with Golden
Yeah.
Girls, those classy ladies for my fourth
Yeah.
one.
It was almost on my list. That almost made it.
Not a bad choice.
No. I do have to give a special shout out to Growing Pains because that song I will sing very loudly and I will sing both parts.
Frankie, knowing you, that doesn't narrow it down. You sing out loud a lot. Wait a minute. I gotta
Theme
ask
song.
Brian, is there
Yeah.
a theme that when it comes on, you're like, I'm Brian, I'm gonna sing this song?
I'm too cool for that. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Wow.
The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air,
Oh,
I
goodness.
definitely do. I actually have rewritten lyrics to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air for a couple of things in my life, so I've done that one a couple times. Honestly, Full House is probably the song that gets stuck in my head more than any of them.
That's a
Oh,
good one.
How did we
forgot
forget
about
Full House?
We
Wow.
forgot about Full House.
And I've got down the Tim Allen Home Improvement song at the very end when he says,
Yeah.
Got that down.
Wow.
That's the only word in
Everyone,
that song.
That wasn't a
Yep.
sound effect. That was actually our very own Brian who did a spot on
was.
Tim Allen there.
That was good.
Now it's time to head to Central Perk to talk about the hugely successful series Friends. Airing from September 22nd, 1994 for 10 seasons till May 6th, 2004. It got 62 Emmy nominations, 5-time Outstanding Comedy Series nominee with winning in 2000. I love the backstory, how they're a tight group who, whenever contracts were coming up, they didn't want to be paid different amounts. They said, we're going to be all paid the same way. They wanted to make sure they were all put in contention for the same awards. Nobody was supporting, nobody was best, nothing like that. I honestly believe it is one of the first true ensemble character shows out there on TV, as they all said, we want to have equal time. And they did. They held strong. What a great family story. I will admit it's only number 43 on IMDb's TV rankings. I think that's a little low. My compadres may disagree. And then, can you guys name the original 3 titles for the show? And I'll let you know if you're right or wrong.
I know New York.
And
I know New York City was in one of the titles, wasn't it?
That was not one of the final 3. Frankie, any guesses? If this was trivia night, I'd be looking at you.
You know what? And I thought I knew these, and I'm drawing a blank. I don't know.
When I say them, you'll be like, oh, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
All right. So the first one, these are the top 3 original names. It was going to be Insomnia Cafe.
I remember that now. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other one
All
was
right.
going to be 6 of 1. And then the last one, Friends Like Us. So they decided to
Which,
trim it and just have it be Friends.
thank God. I think if it
Yeah,
was anything
Insomnia
like
Cafe is rough.
Yeah.
that sounds more HBO. Like if they had a chance
Oh,
to go
yeah.
to HBO, there's an
Well,
HBO version. It would have been called Insomnia Cafe.
all of the actors were nominated, and Lisa Kudrow won. So she was a winner. But you know what? I want to do some trivia. Which
Yeah,
of the
go for it.
main six was not nominated? Let's see. Bryan, you go first. Which one do you think was not nominated? I gave you Lisa Kudrow one. So which one of the other ones was not nominated, though? One of them.
Matthew Perry.
All right, that's your guess. Frankie, you got a guess?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Courtney Cox, which is funny because she, out of all six, she was the only one that had any sort of name recognition before the show
Oh,
started. Yeah.
all right. Well, let's
Mhm.
see. Bryan, you said Matthew Perry. Judges? Frankie, you went with Courtney Cox and Courtney Cox.
Yay!
Yeah. Jennifer Aniston was a Emmy and Golden Globe winner for her role as Rachel Green. Lisa Kudrow as Phoebe. She was an Emmy winner. Matt LeBlanc as a Joey was an Emmy nominee. Matthew Perry, Bryan, shame on you.
I
Matthew
didn't say
Perry.
it would have been right. I just guessed.
Matthew Perry was an Emmy nominee. Same with David Schwimmer. He also directed 10 episodes. A little fun fact there.
Yeah.
So it's number 43 on IMDb. I'm a little outraged that it's
Yeah.
not even in the top 20. Am I alone
Right.
on this?
I'm a little surprised. I mean, just because of how iconic it is, and especially because it's found such, like, in the past few years, it's found a resurgence. With, when it was on Netflix, it was a huge deal, and then
Right.
when it was leaving Netflix, it was a huge deal.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm surprised at least number 20. Like, I know there are other shows that are probably more regarded and
Right.
in that sense, but I think, if you're gonna have a show, I think, to represent at least the 90s, that decade, I think Friends would be somewhere in the top 20.
I'm just a little bitter still, Bryan, from our Batman episode with The Dark Knight Rises is in IMDb 250. So I guess I don't really have a strong connection or on the same page as the IMDb raters.
As the years have gone on, it's been more popular to kind of go back and poke holes, and especially Friends seems to get it worse than just
Yes.
about any show
Yeah.
out there. I think if you had seen this list maybe even 5 years ago before it was ever on Netflix or anything, I think it would probably would have been higher. But everybody likes to poke holes in this show now. It's kind of the popular
Right.
thing to do.
I mean, yeah, it you can pretty much poke holes in anything, but you have to consider the time that Friends was produced and all
Right.
that, to understand what's going on. So, but
Right.
it's not their fault.
Well,
it's a product of its time for sure.
I think one very big helpful thing to making it as memorable as is was the theme song. Apparently for
Yep.
Bryan, it wasn't that great of an intro song. Sung by the Rembrandts. It actually was on the Billboard Hot 100 for 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And a fun story. This was about 2 weeks ago, and when Bryan and I were talking about upcoming episodes, the day it happened, I was at work, and there's like a group of people, maybe about like 20 feet away from me. They start singing "I'll Be There for You." I do the stop and turn, and I'm like, oh my God, I hope they clap. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to clap. I don't care. And it came to the part in the song. We all just clapped. Not just those 20 people who, for some reason, were randomly singing the song. I clapped. People around us clapped. It was a magical moment where everybody just forgot what was going on, and they were going to be there for you. And I think that just shows the power of the song and the power of the show, because afterwards we all kind of started talking about Friends. So it wasn't just a random fan group of Rembrandts. I mean, fun band. If you have Spotify, check them out. But that song just brought people together for like a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
This song is iconic. There's no question. It's referenced in several different things. There's a skit that Jimmy Fallon does, and I'm trying to remember what it is, but he goes, wait, your heartbeat makes the sound of the clap of Friends? And he listens to somebody's heart and everybody claps at the same time. Again, it's pure 90s. The song definitely
Yes.
transports me, but I knew
Yep.
people were going to say Friends. Like, part of my Mount Rushmore is to talk about things that maybe others won't.
Right.
Right.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
I mean, definitely, it's it's a song that I think that's a perfect example. Just like brings people together. Doesn't matter, age, background. It's a theme that just everybody knows. And going off what Bryan said, I was directed to a YouTube video a couple years ago, and it was if anyone's familiar with the Graham Norton show from the UK, it was
Yes.
Jennifer Aniston and Jason Bateman were on the show. And before they came on, they told the audience they were going to set it up, and they were going to say, oh, no one said life was supposed to be this way. And the entire audience claps in unison. But they didn't tell Jason Bateman and they didn't tell Jennifer Aniston. So you see their faces in complete awe of what he's just experienced. That's another great example of that. And I remember, the music in Friends overall, I think, you have the theme song, which is great, but some of the music that they played throughout the run of the show was just great. I remember when they came out with the first TV soundtrack for the show.
Yes.
And
Yep.
just parts of it on Spotify, and you kind of have to search for some of the others.
I actually have 2 of those albums, the
Right.
TV ones, and I don't care how dated we are by saying it, but
Yeah.
they had if you want late 90s,
Yes.
that'll give you it's a good mixtape of the late 90s, the Friends albums.
It really is.
We mentioned about who sadly was left out and who won some Emmy glory. I think it's only fair that we now rank the 6 main characters. And so, you know what? Let's start at the bottom and work our way up. So, Bryan, who is your number 6 of the Friends?
There was a reaction earlier in this episode when her name came up, and I feel really bad that I'm going to do this because I don't know you that well, Frankie, but
Okay.
6 out of 6 for me is Phoebe Buffet.
Oh, it's all good.
Frankie, you got actually, Bryan, you and I are on the same. Phoebe is my number 6 as well. So, Frankie, who's your number 6?
It's okay. It's not a problem. So my number 6 is actually Ross. I will say so it was hard for me to rank them. I will say, because I do love each of them, but on a ranking scale, Ross for me, I think it's because he was the one that stressed me out, who would stress me out the most. I think the whole thing with him and Rachel, we actually, the day after the episode aired, because again, showing my age, I saw these episodes live when the show first started. We had a full-on argument in my debate class in high school on were Ross and Rachel on a break, and I was so mad at Ross because I was so I was so happy they got together, and then he did his thing, and I think that's the reason he ranks last. Is he just he stressed me out so much. And but David Schwimmer did a great job playing the character. I don't deny him that. But the whole thing with the sandwich.
You threw my sandwich away. My sandwich?
Ross is actually pretty high up on mine. I think he is one of the most underrated characters on the show. I think he's hilarious. His unagi, his tanning episode, but also just that when he knows he's screwed up and he's trying to fight for Rachel, and David Schwimmer shows that he can act serious as well. I think Ross is extremely underrated, but I know you're not alone. He gets a lot of meh, so he's at the bottom of a lot of people's lists.
I think a lot of people also see him just the way the whole Rachel dynamic. I mean, he loves her, but he kind of strung her along too. We saw the episode where Rachel and Phoebe had gone out. Emma was just born, and she meets a guy.
Yeah,
he calls and he throws away the message, and people really didn't like him for that. So
I don't see it as he was stringing her along. I think it was a guy who was in love, and Was it right of him to throw it away? No. But I think everyone has made a poor decision when they've been in love. But Brian, you and I are, not to get too much of a downer, but Brian, you and I were not showing Phoebe Buffet. We're not showing her much love. To us, she is a smelly cat. So, Brian, why is Phoebe not getting as much love for you?
Yeah, for me, it was kind of a tie between Ross and Phoebe.
What?
It's Ross has a few more redeeming qualities for me, like when he gets his keyboard and he plays all the lasers and all that kind of stuff. Like Ross has a few of those moments that stand out a little bit more for me. Phoebe comes in last because she's just too weird and weird to the point that it doesn't land with me. Like the episode when Mike has to keep her rats alive, like and that creepy painting she has. I can't remember the name of the painting. None of that stuff really landed with me. I never made that connection with Phoebe. Smelly Cat's funny, but for the most part, that's kind of where I'm at. So somebody has to come in last. It was her for me.
So when I did the Warner Brothers tour out in California, they had the mini Central Park that they call it, where Phoebe is running. And I did the Phoebe run just because I think that's definitely one of her best moments.
Yes.
Phoebe, for me, I think she's funny. Don't get me wrong. When Lisa Kudrow is actually pregnant in real life, and when Phoebe's pregnant on the show, I think that's some of her like funniest stuff.
Right.
But if you were to say, hey, we're going to have one episode focused on one character, it just came down to me, Phoebe being the least character that I would love to watch an episode on. How do I phrase this without being mean? It was very easy for me to put Phoebe last, but I felt bad about it. She does make me laugh. So Ross is your second to last then?
Yeah, Ross comes in at fifth for me. Like I said, he's got a few more redeeming qualities. Frankie summed it up perfect. The guy is just so stressed out of his mind. I don't like how intense he is about just everything, but it's not endearing like it is in Monica.
God.
That's true. I think also the whole time where he's in a relationship with his student, or someone a former student.
Yeah. But that gave us Bruce Willis, man, and that was so funny.
So Brian, I will tell you this: that storyline with the student is one of my least favorites, and Bruce Willis, I wasn't a huge fan of him as a guest host because he was playing Bruce Willis.
Let's relax. Let's relax, Paul. You're doing great. She likes you. She likes you. She likes you. You know why? Because you're a neat guy.
But anyways, Ross, I think underrated, already said it. The scene with the leather pants and it's making a paste.
But see, Joey makes that scene way more funny to me. Like when he's like, well, what color is it? Just make yourself a pair of paste pants and walk out of there.
You're telling me Joey on the phone makes the scene funnier than Ross trying to pull up his pants and has stuff on it?
That is quite the situation.
Well, Frankie, who is your number 5 then? Maybe you can
my number 5?
Get me out of this.
My number 5, and again, it was hard to rank here. I do have to say Joey was my number 5.
Whoa, bombshell.
I'm only looking at it as, I mean, he's an endearing character, and he really is kind of, almost the heart of the group. He really is kind of the heart of the show, because even, Chandler even mentions, when him and Monica buy the house, they're like, oh, we're going to have a Joey room. Like they don't want him to leave. Like, I totally get it. I just ranked him there because from a character standpoint, he didn't really move as much as the others. He pretty much
fairly one-dimensional.
He was fairly one-dimensional, which worked for the show. But again, the reason why he ranks low is just for that reason. I mean, he kind of gets glimpses of, he wants to be in a relationship, but then, it doesn't work out. There was the whole Rachel thing, which I'm glad they did not pursue.
Thank you. I was going to ask you, Frankie, were you team Joey and Rachel?
I wasn't. I couldn't. I mean, I remember when it happened, and I thought to myself, I'm like, I'm not liking this. Like, when it was Monica and Chandler, I was like, yes, do it. I at first was like, whoa,
Yeah.
like really surprised, but I was for it. This one, I didn't like it. So when eventually they were like, you know what, we're just good as friends, I was like, good. Well, I'll deal with that. But yeah, Joey was just a number 5 for me, and that's the reason. It has nothing to do with the performance or
Yeah.
not particularly one thing that the character did. He's number 5. It's
Yeah.
just purely from a character standpoint.
Brian, do you have any thoughts on Joey and Rachel?
Joey's going to come in really high on my list, but Joey is central to my least 2 favorite storylines on this show, and the Joey and Rachel is probably my least favorite ever storyline that they attempted. I did not like those episodes at all. I'm with you. I'm not team Joey Rachel at all.
I'm not. And then my number 5 of 6, Rachel Green.
Really?
No, don't get me wrong. Rachel, oh my God, the Vegas episode where she has the mustache.
Oh, Mrs. Bryan!
Well, hello, Mr. Rachel.
Jennifer Aniston, brilliant actress, and I think her character had a lot of development. But, just when I was thinking about comedic moments that I go, man, all right, this one, Rachel, I thought about not too many. So that's why she's down there for me. But with my logic with Phoebe was, oh God, could I have an episode all about Phoebe? Could I have an episode all about Rachel? I'd watch that. But it was just, I couldn't think of as many comedic moments for Rachel.
She's 4th on my list. I think back and I think how much I really like her, and I can't let her looks kind of sway my decision a little bit.
Wait.
She is very, very attractive.
Do we have a fan crush on Rachel from Bryan?
Who didn't? I think everybody probably had that. But anyway, I mean, she has some funny lines, but again, she's very frustrating too. From how stressful Ross makes you, like the decisions she makes around Joshua and Gavin. I can't stand that character of Gavin. Like that entire relationship. Like I like Tag, but Tag didn't go well together. Like just the relationship decisions she makes, and part of it was maybe she's just so much more attractive than everybody she dates. So I never saw it.
True.
I don't know. Like just the relationships they put her in.
Brian, are you saying that Russ was not attractive?
I am saying exactly that Russ was not attractive. Yeah. And this may be blasphemy a little bit, but I will say that I like how the series ended and all that kind of stuff, but we've seen Ross and Rachel get back together under similar circumstances before. How am I supposed to believe that it's not going to end in the same way? Like, and I mean, the show has to end, so I get it, but it wasn't enough for me.
Well, we found Brian. Rachel was your little fan crush on the show. Frankie, did you have a man crush on the show?
Of the general friends or just any character?
You know
friends?
what? Let's. I want to hear both. Now that you asked that, let's do your
Gunther.
Oh no, Frankie. Is it Gunther?
No, I don't. I don't really have a man crush on Gunther. I feel sorry for Gunther. I would give Gunther a hug. I would, but that would be the extent. That would be the extent of it.
Well then, who is your man crush of the 3 guys, and then of the of anyone?
The man crush, I would have to say, and I have to be specific. It would be It would be Matthew Perry, but when he was fuller. If that makes sense.
Got it.
I enjoy Fluffy Chandler.
Whoopah!
Definitely. I mean, Joey definitely. I mean, out of the 3, he was like the charismatic one and whatever. But I was more of a Chandler fan. Man crush as far as other characters. I mean, Paul Rudd has always been a favorite of mine. I don't deny that. But I know he wasn't your favorite. But Bruce Willis, as older as he's been getting, he's like a fine wine. Like he ages well. So Bruce Willis looked. The whole thing when he's in front of the mirror and he's like, "I'm just a love machine." Like he's doing that whole thing. I'm like, "Hey man, do your thing, man. Do it."
I just. Yeah, those episodes are
I
ones I
am not
usually
here for
skip.
Bruce Willis and Paul Rudd slander. Like, I'm not here for it. Mark.
All right, fine. Well, Brian, you said Rachel was your number 4. Um, she didn't knock it out of the park for you, other than just your crush. She didn't make you laugh.
She's got some funny lines, but like I said, the relationship decisions she made, very,
Right.
very frustrating.
Yeah, I will say that I ranked her as my number 3, just because, I mean, I for one, coming once again from a character standpoint, I just like the way how she went from, daddy's girl, relying on the money, on, daddy's money, up to, she fights career-wise, going from, waitress to, fashion executive. She has Emma. I just really enjoyed that, and I just thought Jennifer Aniston, just her comedic timing was wonderful. And then, it was all about the hair. The Rachel cut was everywhere. So,
Well, Frankie, do you have a number 4?
I do have a number 4. So number 4, when I say who it is, you'll know who my 1 and 2 are probably. It was Monica. Part of it was, like I said before, she was the most, as far as name-wise, she was the most recognizable. She had done, I remember watching her on Family Ties. She was Alex B. Keaton's girlfriend.
Don't forget Ace Ventura.
She had just did Ace Ventura beforehand.
We're not going to talk about the Bruce Springsteen music video.
And and the Bruce Springsteen music video. Her character, and she was kind of zany, and I think why she's probably a little bit lower on the list is I think they focused so much on her. One, the fact that she's so clean. Like, it was literally like just every episode they had to talk about the fact of how obsessively clean she is, which is not necessarily a bad trait, but it's like there's got to be some other facets to the personality there. And then the fact that also they kept having to mention that she used to be fat, which nowadays, if you were to do a storyline, that could be seen as like fat shaming. But when we talk about our favorite episodes, I might be contradicting myself, but I just felt like they couldn't kind of get off the fact that she was, a bigger girl growing up.
Some girl ate Monica.
Shut up. The camera adds 10 pounds.
So how many cameras are actually on you?
I think for my 4th, I'm going to go with Joey. This was actually a last-minute switcheroo for me. Joey's a funny character, but I think it mainly came down to he was also kind of like a one-joke. He's not a one-joke character. He's like a 3-joke character. It's Joey's going to eat.
Joey doesn't share food.
Joey's going to hit on a woman.
How you doing?
Joey's not the smartest one in the room.
Paper, snow, a ghost.
Don't get me wrong, Matt LeBlanc, like, very funny guy. He could make a scene if it needed that extra little joke. Joey was there for that.
So you play a little PlayStation, huh? That's whack. PlayStation is whack. Sup with the whack PlayStation, sup.
Now, don't get me wrong. With the leather pants scene, that scene was all about Ross making it funny. It was not about Joey making it funny. Anyways, Joey was definitely good for laughs. I'm glad. I think his romances irritated me the most out of all the characters. But I will say I did love the one where he dated the one lady who punched him, and he was like, "It hurts."
Yes, that was Punky Brewster, Soleil Moonfry. Yep,
it was.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's like, don't make fun of me because of my size. Like,
that's right.
Yeah.
Fun fact. Let's see if anyone knows this. What TV series was Jennifer Aniston on? Made it a couple episodes. I'll give you a hint. Was based on a hit movie in the 80s, but was canceled.
I know this one.
Brian, well then, hang on. Brian, any guesses?
I know this one.
The Mickey Mouse Club.
Ew, get out of here, Brian.
I don't know, man. You're throwing all these questions out. I don't know any answers.
Frankie, tell him the right answer.
So it was Ferris Bueller. They actually did a TV series in the late 80s. I remember the most random things, but I remember this. I remember the show, but I didn't know it was Jennifer Aniston until much later when they mentioned it. But yeah, they attempted to do like a Ferris Bueller TV show, and the way they spun it was the Ferris Bueller on TV was the real life Ferris Bueller.
Yeah.
They made a movie about him, which is what they tried to do, but obviously it didn't last long.
You can find episodes of it. It started off strong from what I was reading, and then just the storyline got tiresome. Brian, who's your number 3?
I hope that show has 9 episodes. Get it?
Bueller.
My number 3 is Monica. I think Monica's really funny. Earlier in the seasons, it's all about just Monica's clean. That's Monica's thing. But when she gets with Chandler and just her character develops and they come together as a couple, I really, really enjoy her character, what she becomes. I love the closet of just everything in the back of the house. Like, that really makes me laugh. But when she gives Chandler the boat and all that, she just understands Chandler.
Yeah.
I love her character once she comes together. Early seasons, Monica, probably my least favorite character on the show, but once she develops into more of a well-rounded character, I really, really like her. The Fat Monica stuff probably couldn't be filmed today because it probably hasn't aged super well. Some of it, they do a really, really good job of kind of making it not all about just the fact that she was fat, and Chandler just says, "I'm not going to stay here with your fat sister." Like, it's just kind of a throwaway line. It makes you kind of think about, one, how you talk about people when they're not around, but two, is she held on to that for so long, and she still came around on it, and Chandler lost his toe because of it.
That's just well, he's wearing wicker.
He's wearing wicker.
I agree with you. I don't think the episodes could have been handled the same way, but it's not like they made extremely insensitive weight jokes and then just got away with it. They showed you the toll that it took on Monica and how she didn't just let it go. Even after she lost weight, she still held on to it, and they had to communicate and talk about it. And Chandler, he felt awful. And I mean, of course, he made fun of his I rushed the stage at a Wham concert. So
I love his Flock of Seagulls haircut so much.
That's iconic. Yes,
but
that was amazing.
Chandler, it showed what kind of person he was, and then how he grew up and matured, and saw that was a horrible thing to say. So I think the show definitely lets you know that we know it's a sensitive subject, and we're not gonna just make the jokes and have everyone be fine. Like, they're not that psychic character we can pick on. We're gonna come back to this.
That's a good point. No, I agree.
And then I love, now that we've talked about all 3 of the ladies, I love that the show creators and producers said, we're gonna show each one of them having an unorthodox pregnancy. You know, with Rachel having the out of wedlock, Monica, sadly, God, that was so heartbreaking when her and Chandler couldn't. And then Phoebe with wanting to be surrogate for Frank Jr. so that he could have Frank Jr. Jr. My sister's gonna have my baby! That was like ahead of its time. This show had a lot of storylines that were ahead of its time.
Definitely. The show's also been studied from like an LGBTQ standpoint. You know, yes, you know, there were certain things that maybe they didn't do quote unquote right or was different, but you know, really Friends was one of the first shows, and you have to remember this was 94 when it premiered. You know, it was forward thinking in the way that it dealt with LGBTQ characters. I mean, you know, Ross's ex-wife, you know, was in a same-sex relationship. You know, Chandler's dad, you know, you know, is, you know, and again, you can debate back and forth. Some say, you know, he was, you know, was a gay man dressed as a drag queen. He was a, you know, no, he was a transgender woman. You know, you could go back and forth, but you know, these are topics that, you know, that were really ahead of the time. I mean, you know, you had, you know, TV stations that wouldn't air an episode because it showed 2 women getting married. Nowadays,
I remember that.
It's you know, nowadays, it doesn't matter, but that was a huge deal back then.
Brian, you and I, same page here. Monica is my number 3. That was a last minute switcheroo with Joey. I loved her character development, and I think at first it was a one joke Monica, hey, let's just have her be uptight and a chef. But then, with her and Richard, that storyline I like a lot. And then the one episode where she's trying to get a stronger relationship with her mom, there were some good Monica episodes. And then, if you don't get chills when she proposes to Chandler.
And again, going back to you saying, kind of being unorthodox, they even that, was her proposing to him when traditionally it's the other way around.
Right. Good for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Monica is my number 3. How did we forget about her 7 episode? I don't know. That should have gotten her an Emmy nomination right there.
A 2, 4, 6. 2, 4, 6. 4. 2. 2. 4, 7. 5, 7. 6, 7. 7. 7.
Please watch that episode if you haven't seen it in a while. It is still hilarious.
Yes.
Well, Bryan, your number 2 will be?
My number 2 is Joey. I love Joey.
Joey.
He may be a three joke guy, but when he puts on Phoebe's maternity pants,
Joey, those are my maternity pants.
No, these are my Thanksgiving pants.
again, Joey's at the center of my 2 least favorite story arcs, the Rachel and Joey, and then the other is the Joey, Kathy, Chandler love triangle. I don't think Chandler would act that way as the friend that Chandler is. That's kind of my issue with that relationship, but it leads to one of the greatest episodes of Chandler in a Box.
The meaning of the box is threefold. 1, it gives me the time to think about what I did. 2, it proves how much I care about my friendship with Joey. And 3, it hurts.
Joey and Chandler, I go back and forth 1, 2 on, but as the time has gone on, Chandler has clearly made his way to number 1 in my heart. So Joey's number 2. I love Joey.
I do love the Joey sub episode where they're doing the undercover cop, and you just see classic Joey talking about the sub, how good it is, and then the backfire. And poor Ross. He thinks Joey's trying to save him, but he's just trying to save the sub.
No. He's saving the sandwich,
Yeah.
The meatball sub.
I don't miss mac and cheese Joey as much, but just Days of Our Lives Joey, I love him.
Drake Ramore. Yes.
Drake Ramore. So my roommate who got me into Passions also was into Days of Our Lives, and I loved how they actually had Days of Our Lives actors on the show, on Friends, interacting with Joey. Yeah. I thought that was really, because it's NBC, so it's pretty easy to do.
Frankie, I'm gonna guess is Chandler your number 2 as well?
Chandler is my second. Yes, he is my number 2. First, I have to start off. Again, we are talking about the 90s, but I will say out of all 3, Chandler I think had the best style. I was obsessed with his. He used to have these shirts which I absolutely loved, and I actually asked for those types of shirts one Christmas because I just loved. Yeah, I just loved the shirts he would wear.
Look at me. I'm Chandler. Could I be wearing any more clothes?
Even though he did wear shirts where you could see his nipples. I do. He did have. Well,
he did have 3 of them. He had 3 of them.
He did have 3 nipples. Yeah.
What's a nubbin?
But yeah, he's kind of what you said. He definitely was the one that grew. I originally I thought Rachel grew the most, but looking back on it, and Mark, you had mentioned it beforehand, is how much he's grown. Where he has, he does go from, in the beginning he's just, I don't want to say a frat guy because he's really not a frat guy, but he just, irresponsible, as you are at that age, and he goes from that then to, him and Monica really didn't have the strongest relationship when the show started. Then that does blossom into a full-fledged, healthy, I will say that, healthy relationship. And, they built, though they go, there's different obstacles, but he learns, to be a loving husband and then eventually a father. And that's, I guess, as I'm, older now, it's kind of that natural progression as men age. as men,
Well,
as men age is okay. They want to settle down, and then they want children.
if you can, if you can help your future wife with a jellyfish problem, I think your
Right.
relationship can survive anything. I'm gonna go with my number 2, Ross. I know,
Okay.
God, you guys just had him as last and second to last. I'm gonna put him as number 2. I love Ross. I Going back to my thinking of, can I remember a lot of funny Ross moments? Tons of them. Now I will say the one jealous episode where he's jealous of Mark. I was like, Ross, you're so annoying. And then when him and Chandler are fighting over who came up with the joke, I was like, Ross, you're being real
Yeah.
annoying. And one of the most irritating episodes for me is where he's dating the student. So it's like, man, Mark, you have a
Right.
lot of irritating Ross moments, but I think he's hilarious. I love Ross, extremely underrated. I'm glad he was Emmy nominated, and bravo to David Schwimmer for directing 10 episodes. He's my number 2. Easy.
Okay. Yeah.
I enjoy Professor Ross, the one when he talks in the English accent.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that's really funny.
Yes.
But my favorite is when he stands up into the front of the class and he tells everybody what a velociraptor sounded like. Like that cracks me up.
I do have to say, one of my favorites as well, going with the Professor Ross, is when he's super excited. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to teach a graduate course," but he finds out that the class is in a building across town. So he gets the first day he gets there, and he's completely out of breath, and he's like, "Okay, hello, my name is Dr. Ross Geller," and then the bell rings, which is funny to me because college doesn't have bells, but we digress.
Oh,
Like, so
jeez.
to sum up, hello, I'm Dr. Ross Geller. So then, and then he, at the end of the episode, he solves it by being on rollerblades. So
I'm going to give you 2 Ross hilarious moments. One where Rachel and Phoebe are trying to distract him, and they're like jumping up for joy because they didn't want
Yeah.
Ross to see Monica and Chandler getting
Doing
to it
it.
in the window. And like, come on, Ross, go. And he's jumping up for joy, like, ah! One of the hilarious moments.
Yeah. And he worked for that apartment. Him
Ugly naked guy has a naked friend.
It's Naked Ross. They made a connection. He went bare bones, literally, to get the apartment. So,
and I
He fought
think
for it.
probably one of the other ones is the I'm fine scene where
yes,
Joey and Rachel, he invites them over
Yeah.
for fajitas. And that just whole scene where
I'm fine. Totally fine. I don't know why it's coming out all loud and squeaky, because really, I'm fine.
Ross, just
Yeah.
when you're rewatching Friends, just try to notice the
Yeah.
comedic timing of David Schwimmer and just how humorous he is as Ross Geller.
I think that's my issue with Ross though, is the I'm fine part is funny, but then the rest of the episode we have Ross going crazy by holding the fajita pan without a hot pad.
Right.
Like it's just they take it.
I think
way
it's
too
funny. I think it's good stuff.
Far. We got to talk about the holiday armadillo though. I love the holiday armadillo.
The holiday armadillo. Like even though Ben mysteriously disappears towards the end of the run,
I don't think it was mysterious.
He was filming Big
Nobody,
Daddy.
Yeah,
he was in
and
Big
nobody
Daddy.
did anyone miss him? Anyone miss
I
Ben?
never know. I feel bad. I didn't notice he was missing till it was pointed out. They were mentioning like what's wrong with this with Friends, and they were like, what happened to Ben? He like all of a sudden just you didn't see him, they didn't mention him. But the fact that he wants him to get in touch with his Jewish roots and with Hanukkah,
Yep.
he tried. He really did try.
And that's why we celebrate Hanukkah today. The end.
Awesome.
Yeah. My favorite part was when Superman flew all the Jews out of Egypt. The armadillo was actually not so thrilled about that part.
Brian, you and I have the same top character with Chandler. So why do you love him so much, Brian?
Chandler just like Frankie talked about it, just the amount of development that he has. He goes from such an awkward guy to still just a more awkward guy that's now pulled off a much hotter wife than he ever could have pulled off usually. But I love the recliners. I love the foosball table. All the ins and outs of Chandler, but just the fact that he isn't afraid to show who he really is. I really like that about that. Like Joey, say what you will, he always wants to put on a face, and that's part of his character. I love when we get the softer side of Joey with Hugsy and all that kind of stuff.
Hugsy.
But
Right.
I love Bath Chandler and just all that kind of stuff. But when he can't be a father, you can see that just that pain on his face. And I just really, really like how that character developed.
Chandler, he just checks everything off for me. Humor, I think he's hilarious. I would watch an episode just about Chandler. I wouldn't go as far as say I would watch a spin-off about him, but I think he's hilarious. And then I think he has the best character development over all 10 seasons, from where he starts to being the dad and loving husband at the end. Chandler just has it all for me.
I like that he decides that he wants to stop doing statistical analysis and data configuration to work in his dream job in advertising. I will just say that.
You just named Chandler's job, man. He's showing off.
I did.
No.
It just popped in my head. I was like, oh, I remember now.
He's a transponster.
Frankie, your favorite was actually Bryan and mine's least favorite. Phoebe Buffet. Sell us on why Phoebe is your favorite.
You know what? I fell in love with Phoebe, I think, from the very first episode, or from the first couple. I think she's just such even though she's got like a freaky side to her, like when she gets married to Mike and they start dropping things of how she's doing stuff in the bedroom, but not exactly what she does in the bedroom. She has that. She's still, she's a kind spirit. I think she, the fact that she comes from, she comes from a very dark background when you think about it, because her father runs off, the mother, or who you think is her mom, commits suicide, but yet she still has a cheery disposition, and always tries to find the good side of people. I think Lisa Kudrow did such a great job of playing her. She was a great combination of kookiness, and Mike says it, she's just wonderfully weird with love, and I kind of like the randomness that she brought. I know that Bryan, that wasn't necessarily that wasn't a check for Bryan there, but which I completely understand. But for me, I just like, the fact of, her New Year's resolution. She wants to, learn how to fly a plane. So she's like, I'm going to go to the airport and just see if they're just leaving one of those planes around. I'm like, I just love that. I just love that about her. The fact that she wants to have her brother's kids, and that she likes saying it because it freaks people out. I thought that was funny. But the fact that she does make that sacrifice for her brother, who she literally just met. She didn't, when she agrees to be the surrogate for them. I think my gosh, I don't think they had known each other for even a year at that point. But yeah, like that's why she's my favorite, and not just because she marries Paul Rudd. Like I said, one of my man crushes. But she's just up there for me.
That wedding is the best wedding on the show. I love that wedding. That episode's so good.
The episode, the fact that she's like, what, she wants to go out in the wedding dress. She's going to be cold. She's going to be her something blue, like she says. She's just so in love with Mike, and yeah, and the way, and one of my favorite episodes, hands down, is when she meets Mike's parents, and she does the whole, he wants them to meet Phoebe, not Phoebe.
Your home is lovely. Well, thank you. I'll give you a tour later. It's actually 3 floors. Holy crap.
I understand where she's not on the top of a lot of people's lists, but for me, it's Phoebe, hands down, for sure.
Well, that was the main 6. The show ran for 10 seasons, had a whole lot of favorite guest characters and side characters. Frankie, do you have a favorite side or guest character?
I actually have 2, because you have to. I think one goes with the other, and that's going to be Christina Pickles and Elliot Gould as Jack and Judy Geller. I love their banter together. I love the relationships they have with Ross and Monica, and out of all the parents, they're my favorite.
I'm with you, Elliot Gould. Not the mom. I appreciate her, but Elliot Gould. Just the one scene where Monica and Richard broke up, and he's there, like being a good dad. I love Elliot Gould. I think he's my favorite side character.
I love Pete Becker, John Favreau, when he comes in and
Yes.
UFC. I really like his character, but my favorite side character, we've talked about him a couple of times, is Frank Buffet Jr., Phoebe's brother. He cracks.
I know he gets a lot of hate. I don't get it, but I've heard actually quite a bit of hate for Frank Jr.
Anybody going to talk about Janice?
Maggie Wheeler. Maggie Wheeler is the actress. I think she's brilliant.
I've always wanted to go into a room and just go,
oh my God.
but I want to get a chance to do that, but it never happens.
Now's the hard part of narrowing it
Yeah.
down our favorite season and least favorite season. It actually was very hard for me to pick this. So because of that, I'm going to go last. Frankie,
Okay.
do you have a least favorite season?
It was tough for me because I think all the seasons are strong, which is very rare for a TV series. For me, I did choose season 1 only because it didn't have as many memorable episodes as the later seasons. And generally, if I binge watch, I kind of start with season 2. I'm not going to lie. I'll watch the pilot and then I may not watch the rest of the episodes. So it's probably going to be, it's probably season 1 for me. And you're talking about production before. And I think that might be it too, is, the production is not as great. I think once they were like, oh, this is a hit, let's give it more money, the production got better.
I can't agree more. Maybe it's because Rachel doesn't have the Rachel haircut yet. Maybe that's
probably
what it is. But season 1 for me, it has 2 strong points. The one with the blackout where Chandler's stuck in the ATM vestibule with Jill Goodacre, and it introduces Marcel. Beyond season 1, there's not a ton of it there for me. I don't like Paolo. Like, I don't like any of that.
Oh, no one likes Paolo.
Yeah. Originally, I had season 6, and I thought for sure because, it had the Bruce Willis stuff. But then as I went back over it, I was like, wait a minute, I actually really love a lot of the episodes in this season. So I agree with you. Season 1, it's not an awful start, but just not my favorite season. Well, Frankie, favorite season.
Favorite season, again, another hard choice, but I chose season 5. I think because
Frankie, we are the same. I went with season 5 as well. Yeah, go for it.
I went with season 5 just because that's when so much of the growth happens. That's when we start. That's the start of Chandler and Monica. We get the great season opener of the aftermath of Ross saying the wrong name. You get the whole sort of the breakdown of his relationship with Emily, and then it all ends with Vegas. So it's just, each one finding out about them, Monica and Chandler getting together, like that progression, like it has a lot of memorable moments for me, for sure.
You don't know that we know they know we know.
I think we need to point out 2 big episodes. We get the pivot episode.
Pivot! 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 Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
And then also the one where Ross can't flirt.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I love that episode, but I agree with you. It ends with Vegas, which is extremely memorable. Ross can't flirt. I love that episode also. I can relate to that. And then it's also, we start the season where the one after Ross says Rachel. So just great start, great finish. Bryan, you got a favorite?
Mine was honestly down between season 4 and season 8. Season 4, like I said, it's got that Kathy thing in it. I don't really like that, but it's got some of the strongest episodes. It's got Monica's 7 episode. It's got the trivia game where Joey and Chandler win the apartment. And it's got the one where Chandler goes to Yemen.
I'm going to Yemen. When we get to Yemen, can I stay with you?
Season 4 was actually my runner-up, so good choice.
But season 8, I think that's what I'm going to go with. I really enjoy the red sweater. They think it's tags. It ends up being Ross's. The episode with the videotape when... Have I ever told you about the time I went backpacking across Western Europe? I experienced that only with one person, and I love her dearly. It's really funny. The one with the rumor where Brad Pitt comes to Thanksgiving dinner.
Yes.
I love that episode. There's just so many good ones in season 8. So splitting hairs here, but I think I'm gonna go with season 8, and it ends again with Joey kind of proposing to Rachel. I didn't enjoy that part, but the birth of Emma is all really good. Like irritable Rachel when she's super pregnant. I like that all just really works for me.
Not all episodes were winners, just like, season 1 was the weakest. Do you have a least favorite episode?
I had to look through, and I do. If I had to pick one, because I was looking through and it was like, well, it wasn't the strongest episode, but I like different parts. For me, it wasn't season 1, so my least favorite season, and it was the fake Monica episode. It was hard. It came down to that one only because the main storyline, as much as great of Monica character as Monica is, it's not a really strong storyline. Okay, somebody took her credit card information, as sucky as that is. It really didn't push anything forward. It does have one of my favorite parts, though, and that is when they're learning to tap dance, and Rachel has got it down. And Phoebe, she's like, oh, do you ever just feel so uncoordinated? And then Phoebe's like, I'm totally getting this. And she's, in her Phoebe element. But it would have to be that episode for me.
Mine comes actually in the aforementioned 4th season, is the one with the invitation when they're sending out wedding invitations for Ross and Emily's wedding. And this show relied far too often for me on flashback episodes of just filling time with clips from previous episodes. And this is one of those, but they spend the whole time of dwelling on a relationship that a guy has with another woman when he's getting married to somebody else. That just, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about Ross and Rachel when Ross is getting married to Emily. And like I said, clip episodes in general, I'm kind of glad that that's become kind of a thing of the past. But for me, that's probably my least favorite episode just because of how it all came together.
When you put it like that, I totally understand. My least favorite is one that I always skip because 2 bully characters in it annoy me. I've thrown stuff at the screen because of them. But it's season 2, episode 21. It's called The One with the Bullies. And it's about 2 bullies that are just, they're not very nice. And it's an episode when I come on, I like out loud, and eye roll. I got no time for that one. Let's pick things up and get back to our friends that make us laugh and are happy. Frankie, if you needed to watch one episode, what's your go-to favorite episode?
So mine is when streaming and on DVD or Blu-ray, it's a 2-parter, but it aired as 1 episode, and that is going to be the one that could have been. The one where we kind of get an alternate universe, a French universe, you could say. I think everybody is, the acting is really great. Everyone is definitely in their element. This was something that really had not been done, I think, beforehand in the history of television. And I think it was great to also see the fact that, things, even though this is like a different universe and things didn't happen, certain things still ended up the way they are in the actual Friends universe. Monica and Chandler still end up together, though it's in a very roundabout way. Phoebe still, she becomes a singer at, Central Perk towards the end. And her ending song is just hilarious. That's one of my favorites. And then the fact, again, the Phoebe storyline being one of my favorites, we get to kind of see her be quote unquote smart and, working in stocks and, the whole thing where she's got the cell phone going. She's like, yes, go. It's like, what kind of name is Brindy? Just all that. And then she has the heart attack. So, which is, again, kind of dark, but she was like, I think I'm having a heart. I think you're having a heart attack. It's like, well, if I was having a heart attack, would pain be going up and down my left arm? Yes. Then yes, that is what I'm having. And we got, like I said, I even though Monica was towards the end there of my list and the whole fat thing, the fact that we got sort of a bit more of fat Monica, but she was so sweet and cute, and she had that little voice, and them taking her flower, that was my favorite.
Chandler, that's the couch.
Exactly.
Mine comes down to the one where no one's ready with the fat in the kitchen. Well, he could drink the fat, but I think my favorite episode that if I had to go to one is the one with the embryos where Phoebe finds out she's pregnant and Chandler and Monica and Rachel and Joey are fighting for the apartment and that quiz game.
Althea, where
What are you doing?
I took a shot.
You're shooting with Althea?
Althea is correct.
Nice shooting.
They name everything in her bag, and he's like, Scotch tape. And they're like, well, we use the rest of hers making scary faces. Like, but just the way when they all come and hug together, and then Phoebe stands off to the side and just kind of jumps around. It's really funny. Just that entire episode is when Joey comes riding into the apartment on the dog. I love it.
Well, actually, that one's my favorite as well. I laugh when the rooster is roosting there at the end and Rachel is not having it, bangs on the door. And
What is that noise?
You. It's the chick. She's going through some changes.
What kind of changes?
Well, the vet seems to think that she's becoming a rooster. We're getting a second opinion.
and then I love that Chandler is afraid of.
According to Chandler, what phenomenon scares the bejesus out of him?
Michael Flatley, Lord of the Dance.
That is correct.
The Irish jig guy?
His legs flail about as if independent from his body.
Ross as the game show host, I think it's comedic genius from David Schwimmer, the lightning round. And then of course we get Chandler Bong. Actually, it's Ms. Chandler Bong. I also get a joy out of Rachel's favorite movie is Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah.
What's Chandler's job?
Chandler's job, he is in statistical analysis and data reconfiguration.
But what do they think his job is?
They think he's a transponster.
That's not even a word.
Like everything, must come to an end. And I think Friends had not one of the most original finales for a series, but one of the ones most satisfying, I think, is a good way to put it. No surprises, although it was heartbreaking, them all putting their keys on the counter. And then you had that guitar music and them all walking out. And, somebody else is going to end up living in that apartment. And Matthew Perry ad-libs that joke where they're like, let's go get coffee. Where? And then the camera just zooms in with the guitar music playing onto the picture frame peephole and just fades out. Oh, I'm getting chills talking about it. But where do you guys have it as far as series finales all together? Is it like high up there for you? Were you satisfied?
I definitely was satisfied. I really, I did see it live with some friends of mine, and we all enjoyed it. Yes, it was very simple. It was, on the predictable side, but being what Friends as a show is, that's kind of what's expected. I would have been, I think most likely everybody else, myself included, would have been more upset if they would have been like, okay, we're going to be edgy and different and like just go in a completely different direction. I do like the fact that they did tie everything up. For me personally, a bad series finale is a finale that just doesn't tie everything up or is just, doesn't really solve anything. That's why I hate the series finale of the original Full House.
But
yeah, it's horrible. It's one of the worst. But this one I enjoy. And, the only critique I have about it, and some also do, we talked about it earlier, was, Ross and Rachel. It's like, okay, they're together again, but are they really? And then also, Rachel got this really kick-ass job in Paris and her career shut off. Did she just risk all, did she just sacrifice her entire career? Did she get her job back? Is she still working in New York? That was really the only thing that I think.
I look at it as she picked love and family, and she could be happy in New York, but if, she didn't really think family was an option. So that's when Paris was in there. Bryan, do you have any thoughts on the finale?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that we talked about it earlier. You had to do something to convince me that this time was different for Ross and Rachel, and I don't think that they did. I think the scene of him getting the message and then her standing in the apartment, that's not something you could film today because what's an answering machine? But B, like the way that they filmed that is, did she get off the plane and then all of a sudden you can see her in the camera? Like that all worked really well. But again, I don't think that that's any better of a love scene than we got when he's standing in the rain outside Central Perk when they kissed for the first time. It just, you're not going to convince me that Ross and Rachel that it's different this time around, other than I'm supposed to believe it, which is completely fine. Series finales are hard to end. Like you said, the Full House one was rough. The How I Met Your Mother one was not good. So from series finales standpoint, this is probably as good as they could do, but it's hard to end a comedy show. Like, it just is.
It is.
Especially after 10 seasons and being one of the highest rated and tons of Emmy nominations. There was a lot of pressure for sure. They decided, you know what, this is such a successful concept. Let's make a spin-off. It worked for Frasier with Cheers. Let's do it for Joey. And it lasted 2 seasons. NBC was hoping it was going to be a mega hit, even put it in the Friends soundstage. And it did not get the same response as Friends did. Did either of y'all watch some, Joey?
I watched it live as it came out, and I have not had any reason to go back to it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I watched it. I would kind of be interested to go back and watch it now, maybe a little more mature, but I feel like I'm going to think even less of it being how I am now as opposed to when it first came out. I think the concept was bad, moving Joey from New York, which he loves, but I get it. As an actor, he wants to be in film, so move him to California. But they took away the humorous side of him, the popular, confident ladies' man, and kind of made him more like trying to be a stepdad. It just didn't work for me.
I think I might have seen the first 2 episodes, and I was like, this isn't the same. Like, I mean, Joey needed to have the other 5 people. Like, that's why he worked, was because he could work off of the his 5 friends in New York. To have him just by himself, it didn't seem right.
I don't think any of the characters could have had their own show.
No.
So I don't fault Joey. I just don't think any of it. I think it was, like the actors wanted it to be. It was an ensemble.
Yeah, they gelled so well that when they tried to separate them, it didn't work.
Speaking of the Friends soundstage where Joey was filmed, if you need to get your fill and want to visit some of the, I don't want to say historical, but some of the Friends locations, you can go on the Warner Brothers tour out in California. I highly recommend it. I did it twice. They have a Central Perk set where you can even go onto the set and be placed into a scene from the show. That was a lot of fun. They even have a Central Perk coffee shop there, and you'll drive by the Friends soundstage, which, fun fact, is where Full House was originally filmed, and then Fuller House was there. So good times all around. Well, that concludes our Friends episode this week with our guest host, Frankie. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciated having you.
Oh, thank you. It was great. It was great to talk about Friends. Thanks for having me.
Oh, always, always. To our fellow fans out there listening, please give us a rate or review. And to all of our DC fans out there, don't think we forgot about the huge announcements with DC fandom. Next week on UWF, Bryan and I will be reviewing and nerding out on what DC announced and blew all of our nerd minds with. So tune in for that. For those listeners with any comments or questions, drop us a line so we can reply. Bryan, tell our listeners how they can message the show and stay up to date on everything UWF.
You can follow us on Instagram at United We Fan Podcast, or you can send us your feedback or any topic ideas you might have to unitedwefan.podcast@gmail.com.
Thank you, friends, for uniting with us here on United We Fan, the podcast. Listen to us wherever you check out your podcasts. Till we unite again, fans, if you're sad we aren't doing the next episode till next week, as Ross says, we were on a break.
Okay, faster. Je
m'appelle.
m'appelle. Je m'appelle.
Mi poupou.